I sometimes wonder whose run is better. Is it Mr. Gatwer or is it Miss Whittaker? Whilst I have many an issue with Miss Whittaker's run as the Doctor, I would say that it is nowhere near as problematic with Gatwer's run. And if you wonder what I mean, just check out any of my videos to do with the Gatwer series. Now, a lot of you will probably think that's very harsh, but I will have to say this. The story that I watched for today's review is a heap tons better than what we've had for the last two series. Hello and welcome back to Chat About It, Don't Shout About It with me, Rachel, the Queen of the Woke, as crowned by one of my haters, not by myself. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the channel, switch on the notification bell so that you know I am releasing another video. Thank you to everyone who's joined me already. I cannot run this channel without you. Please do remember to keep it nice in the chat. It's Doctor Who Sunday, and that means we kick back and relax and we talk about all things Doctor Who. Now, normally I would cover woke content in the week, but because we're leading up to the finale, I'm going to cover some other Doctor Who news this week as well. I also release a new poll for Doctor Who reviews every Sunday at 10 a.m, so please head on over to the post page to see which one it currently is being voted on. The Jodie Whittaker stories don't receive a vote, and the reason why is only because about 10, maybe 20 people vote on them, so I put a stop to it and I'm just going to do them in order. Except I've already done Rosa, so it will be the one that follows Rosa. Today we are looking at The Ghost Monument, which was written by Chris Chibnall. So continuing on from the cliffhanger, the Doctor, Yaz and Ryan and Graham have all been zapped into outer space. While floating around in the void of space, Ryan finds that he is unable to breathe, but then a spaceship appears and we next see Ryan and Graham waking up inside that spaceship, but Yaz and the Doctor are nowhere to be seen. They have been rescued by Angstrom. They eventually land on a deserted planet, or so it seems. We also discover that unbeknownst to Ryan and Graham, that Yaz and the Doctor have also been saved by Epzo, and they are on his ship. Everything starts going into chaos. The Doctor takes control of the situation and assists Epzo by jettisoning the rear of the ship and helping him crash land on the same deserted planet that Ryan and Graham have also landed on. The reason why they have ended up on this planet is because the Doctor has picked up a reading of the TARDIS, and so she believes, because the TARDIS has been lost, that this is where the TARDIS is. However, there is a possibility that she could also be wrong. A tent appears in the middle of the deserted planet. Angstrom and Epzo enter this tent with the Doctor, Yaz, Ryan and Graham. They meet Ilin, who is a hologram, and a very convincing hologram at that. This is where we discover that Angstrom and Epzo are in a race together. The race is called the Rally of the 12 Galaxies. They're raising money for their families and whatever they need it for, and they are the only two left in the competition, and the final thing that they have to do in order to win is find the Ghost Monument, which turns out to be the TARDIS. Ilin advises them also to not travel at night and to not touch the water. So the Doctor, Yaz, Ryan and Graham, because I refuse to call them the fam, go on this quest with Angstrom and Epzo, and they cross the water and they find the ruins. In these ruins, they discover that there are sniper bots. These bots defend these ruins when activated after a fast, intense scene where we see these bots in action. It gets dark and they find a secret area that is located in what appears to be a type of shaft with a basement area. This is where we discover the remnants, and the remnants bump people off. There's a mad dash to get outside because the remnants are very dangerous. However, they do end up getting surrounded, and it is during this, whilst they are distracting and talking to the remnants, that we hear the first mention of that dreaded timeless children. To which the Doctor promptly tells the remnants to get out of her head. Then they all lie on the floor. They throw up the cigar from Epzo in the air, and she clicks her fingers and everything gets set on fire. Simple as that. And they escape. They find Ilin again in his tent, and after much arguing Hangestrom and Epsa decide to make it a draw at the Doctor's suggestion. Ellen begrudgingly accepts, and the three of them disappear, leaving behind Yaz, Ryan, and Graham and the Doctor. The Doctor believes that she has failed them on her promise to get them home. There's no TARDIS. Also, she believes, and just when they were contemplating on whether or not they were going to be spending another night where they would not make it through to morning, we hear a noise. It's the TARDIS materialising as the ghost monument. The Doctor uses her sonic screwdriver, zaps the TARDIS in order to stabilise, and it's our first look at the Jodie TARDIS. And as much as her sonic screwdriver, this one is also rather phallic, and I'll just leave you with that thought right there. Right, so my Jodie story reviews are never that long. I do apologise. I don't know why they're not particularly long. They're just not. However, the Ghost Monument is probably one of my favourites from her era. One of the things about the current series that people say to me, particularly on the sort of opposing side, quote unquote, because we can all agree to disagree, is that I shouldn't watch because I'm a hater, or I don't like it so that much is clear, so therefore it's not for me, so therefore I shouldn't be watching, all of that. Now, just because I've got mega issues about the last two series doesn't mean to say that I hate the show. I didn't hate Jodie's era. I didn't love it either. I have my opinions on the fact that we got a female Doctor, and I certainly have my opinions on the Timeless Child. That was a total train wreck that we didn't need. But I can still sit down and watch that era. And like I said, the Ghost Monument is probably one of my favourites. Straight up honest with you, it's an everybody lives story, and we don't get many of those in Doctor Who, despite having two in a row recently. And it was one of those that it was just sort of brushed over. They didn't say anything about the fact that everyone lives. I think one of the best lines in Doctor Who is when Christopher Eccleston's Doctor in The Doctor Dances says about everyone living, and you can hear the relief in his voice, but I'm not talking about that. Anyway, I will be doing that one at some point soon. Let's continue. But the reason why I like the Ghost Monument is because it is very clear that it is trying, and I'll just say trying, to be a Doctor story. It's not filmed in a quarry. It's filmed in a desert in South Africa. That's okay. That really does help with the scenery. It gives you that feeling that they are on the planet. The planet's name, by the way, I don't think I ever mentioned it in the synopsis. It's Planet Desolation. There's something about certain areas in South Africa that really does add to sci-fi. When I was about 16, I went to Africa and I visited one of the areas, and I can't remember the name off the top of my head, where Star Wars was filmed. I'm not really all that into Star Wars, so it didn't really sink in as to the name or the location, but I went there. The shots in this story do make me think of Star Wars, and it's probably because of the filming locations. And I don't mind the Star Wars style being added into this particular story. I don't know if Chibs was ever inspired by Star Wars for this story. I'm not in his head, so I wouldn't know, but it wouldn't surprise me if he was inspired by Star Wars. You see, because another thing that made me think of Star Wars was the sniper bots. The sniper bots, I believe we don't ever see again. I can't remember. If we do, however, their costume made me think of the Jedi style type of costume. Now, the sniper bots, I really do wish that they had been utilised more in this story. The issue with doing that is it's only about 45 minutes. And this is a common issue with every single story since 2005, except for the ones that have a multi-part to them. Not enough time. These sniper bots are really cool. I really wish that we had a much bigger battle with them, perhaps some kind of shootout. But I suppose it's not really a big cast, so they really couldn't do that. What they did do, though, was they did try to make Ryan look really, really stupid. Again, what is it about making Ryan really dumb? They did it in The Woman Who Fell to Earth. They did it in Rosa, which I've already reviewed. But I just get the sense that they just want to make him dumb and like the comedy character, but it's not funny. I think Ryan is much better than that. And I think Tosin Cole, who plays him, is also better than that. Give him something to do. So, for example, when he wants to take on the sniper bots with a weapon, the Doctor has a fantastic little bit where she's shouting at him, well, not shouting at him about the gun, but she's very strict about it. But instead of having him stand up to her and having them fight physically, or her try to talk him down calmly or something like that, he just gets cocky, and that was his way of standing up to her. And he's like, yeah, I'm the bee's knees, so I'm going to do it. And off he goes, and then they just make him look incredibly arrogant, which really is not his character, if you think about it. And it goes back in absolutely terrified, a total coward. He's got dyspraxia. He's not weak as water. He isn't, in my opinion, stupid, but they just don't seem to know how to make him an intelligent man. There's a thing about this series where it is the strong, intelligent woman. But you've swapped the gender of the Doctor, which I never agreed with. So naturally, of course, you are going to need to make her intelligent, so to speak, because that would look really stupid if you didn't. But really, the companion is there to serve, asking the questions and getting captured and things like that. But they do have intelligence. It's almost like this trope of having the three companions in the TARDIS, but not knowing how to write for the three of them. In the early days of Doctor Who, for example, the first Doctor, they definitely knew how to write for these three companions, and during the first Doctor's era, it was pretty much three companions for quite a while. Then they went down to two, and then maybe one, and then they brought back the three companions during the Tom Baker and Peter Davison era, and that was when they really struggled to do the writing for the three companions. And it's almost like it's the same here. They've got three companions, so therefore the writing is much more complicated. The three companion story can easily work. You've just got to have the imagination and the ways to work around it. Now, I'm not saying that Chibs is lacking in imagination, just to be clear. It's just what he did with Ryan, he was underwritten. And I felt like perhaps that a script editor needed to come in and have a look and say, can we add more depth to this character? But I suppose that's a downfall, really, when you have a showrunner who writes all the stories or nearly all the stories. You can't expand on it because you've got no one to bounce off, to expand off, because it's your idea. So therefore, it stops with you. And when you think it's at the point where it's good and it's not necessarily good, you stop. Now, to be fair, they did try and build on it a little bit with Ryan in this one, his grief for losing his nan, but they didn't really pay all that much attention to it. I will say that I do prefer that, and it happens in many respects. I don't like it when it gets too soapy in Doctor Who, and there was a point in this story where it did run the risk of becoming a soap, and that is when they are on the boat, because there's no jeopardy written into it. It was about 20 minutes in or so, and all they were doing was chat. And we're getting backstories from Epso and Angstrom. I would have liked to have seen more action on that boat, really. Yes, they can still mention the Stenza because obviously that relates to the overarching plot, but something that really gets the Doctor's brain going as well. They make a real big deal about why you shouldn't touch the water, and we get a spiel of information from the Doctor. Now that's all very nice, but I would have liked to have seen what happened perhaps if you did touch the water by mistake. I know that perhaps would have become a very Lord of the Rings type of thing, but I still would have liked to have seen it. But of course, we didn't get that. However, we do get a large amount of action at the beginning, so I do appreciate that very much so. It addresses the cliffhanger. I just want to also quickly take the moment to correct something that I said a few weeks ago in my review of the Robot Revolution about the fact that there was a cliffhanger at the end of that story, and I said that was like the first cliffhanger at the end of a part 1 or something like that. Well, I can't quite remember what I said, but I know that I said about the fact that there was a cliffhanger. Well, I'm going to correct that mistake. I forgot about this one completely. I completely forgot about it. And this was because of the battle with the Stenza. I would have liked for a little bit more action from that cliffhanger, but I suppose you can't breathe in outer space. So it would make sense for you to be zapped into a spaceship, but I do appreciate it compared to what we had with the robot revolution. Here they carried on from the cliffhanger. This is something that I would like to see playing across more into the current series. They did that in early Doctor Who as well. Oh, now, the Jodie Doctor is not really the Doctor. She was a very big miscast, in my opinion. Now, that being said, I do tip my hat to her and say that full credit for at least trying to make the Doctor sound as intelligent as possible. And the one thing that Chibs does focus on is trying to have her resolve the situation in this story. She's very much in charge all the way throughout. It does play into the Doctor's character, no matter what you think of the Jodie Whittaker's Doctor. I know that there are people out there who love this interpretation of the Doctor, and that's absolutely fine. You are allowed to. But I do believe her in this story, very much so. I do think, though, that she could have been Romana for, because this is something that I think I could imagine Romana doing. But, yep. Jodie's Doctor takes control of the situation. You hear the authority in the voice, you see it in the face. It's just a shame that everything that she is doing does not necessarily relate to the Doctor because, well, in my opinion, shouldn't have been a gender swap. Didn't believe in it. I just didn't. I like the fact, though, that she jettisons the spaceship, the back end of the spaceship, and that helps them crash land into the planet. You see, at this point in Doctor Who, there's still very much jeopardy going on, and we know there's a possibility that this crash landing could go horribly wrong and create a regeneration. There's also a bit in this that made me think of John Pertwee. I don't know if Jodie would have known about where this particular thing had come from. Now, Chibs obviously would have known this, but she used a bit of Aikido. Now, I don't know Aikido, so I don't know if this move is Aikido or Aikido. But she puts her little pinky finger into Epso's neck and it temporarily paralyzes him. I did like that little shout out to the Pertwee Doctor. There's also something else that she does in this, which you really don't see very much, or at least not to this degree with the current state of Doctor Who. The Doctor has promised Yaz, Ryan and Graham that she would get them home, but when they don't find the TARDIS, she realises that she can't, at least that is what we believe, and she accepts full responsibility for not finding it, and she apologises to them. And that's one quality I like about the Doctor, is the Doctor can admit when he's got it wrong, and the Doctor knows when to accept responsibility for mistakes. I really like that, how it's done, how it's played, how it's shot, how it's directed and edited. And whilst I don't think that Jodie ever truly understood the development of the Doctor, I think she understood what she was going to do with this and where she needed to go with this and the importance in that sense. She's not bad, by the way. I don't think she's bad. I will never say that. I think she's a very good actress overall, just not suited to the Doctor, and that's my opinion. So one thing about this story is that it has so many similarities to things. I don't know if Chibs knows about what happens in the Big Finish stories. He's very likely to have listened to them, but I'm not in his head, so I wouldn't know. But there were two very distinct things that make me think of Big Finish stories, and I quite like the idea of these being in here, perhaps, and even have the concepts of them played on a little bit more. So as I mentioned of a tracker, and there's a Peter Davison story, a little arc I should say, in the audio plays that's called The Key to Time 2. If you have seen the Key to Time stories, it is a sequel to those Key to Time stories. In the sequel, the Key to Time gets lost again, and Amy, and I believe her name is Zelda, are created to track them. And I don't know why, but these trackers, these little triangle trackers or whatever it was. It just made me think of that and the fact that the tracker was leading them to where they needed to go. And that's the purpose of Amy in the story. Oh, and Zelda. And then the TARDIS was also a ghost monument. Now, in the Paul McGann stories, he loses his TARDIS for about 4 stories, I think, off the top of my head. I can't quite remember. And he has to go on a quest with Charlie and the new companion Keres to find his TARDIS, but it takes him a long time to find it, and he eventually does after crossing all of these strange worlds and zones. Well, the monument made me think of that. And do you know what I was thinking when I was watching the Ghost Monument again? I was thinking, wow, this would have made a great story arc. It's something clearly that he may have been inspired by, possibly with the Big Finish audio plays if he listens to them. He could have had the tracker and the missing TARDIS. Why couldn't we get that? 2 companions that were essentially trackers of some sort of description, and they are responsible for tracking down the TARDIS for their own game, or even helping the Doctor to locate it. I think that would have been brilliant. I really wish that they had played into that more, because the TARDIS is the Doctor's home, and without that the Doctor can't really survive because he is connected to it. I just think it was a real big missed opportunity, and maybe in the future that is something that they could consider doing, having the TARDIS go missing for a series and have the Doctor end up on all these weird planets that is not planet Earth. I shouldn't write for them. Really, I shouldn't. I honestly think I would have preferred that, though. Rather than having the timeless children. Now, in this story, this is the first mention of the timeless child. Now, typically, when I say that I don't accept that something is canon, because that's not what's in my head, I'm just joking. Okay, just to be clear, I know that canon has been changed. It is more of a reference to something that RTD said. I just want to make that clear. I do wish the timeless child had never happened, though. I remember when I first heard it, when I first watched this story, and I was like, oh, sounds like this is going to be big. However, I do suppose that with the timeless children, at least it wasn't necessarily anything to do with the companion, and the companion was just there, and it was all to do with the Doctor. So Chibs, did try to break away from it. I don't necessarily agree with how it was done, but at least the focus was on the Doctor, I suppose. However, I would say how it was revealed, or the mention was given, was quite creepy. I do like it. The fact that the remnants could talk, well, I say talk, but I suppose it's more of a psychic connection, isn't it? That scene where they are being attacked by the remnants and they are digging away at the sand in order to try and save themselves is probably my favourite bit in the entire story. It does make me think of the Harry Potter scene in the movie where Ron splits open Slytherin's locket and all that stuff is flying and swirling around, things like that. I guess Chibs just gets inspired by everyone. He was also inspired by enlightenment, or I would say he probably forgot that enlightenment existed. I really do like the fact that they somehow happen to find themselves in the midst of the Rally of the 12 Galaxies, which is a space race. I wish that we had got to see more of that, but I do like the idea of it. However, it falls short on what enlightenment really does, but I suppose there's only so much that you can do with 45 minutes. I think this story, The Ghost Monument, tries to encapsulate as much as it possibly can in order to make it Doctor Who. They are on an alien planet, they've been in outer space, the Doctor solves the problem by taking charge, risking their lives, and accepting responsibility when it didn't go according to plan. I think that I like this one more than Rosa and The Woman Who Fell to Earth. To be fair, The Woman Who Fell to Earth just falls a little bit short because we had to make a point of the fact that we now have a woman as the Doctor. And Rosa was more of the Doctor just sits back and watches everything unfold, rather than having loads of action and putting Rosa in absolute jeopardy. This one, there was more jeopardy because there was no TARDIS. It's missing and they have to find it. I just wish they'd done more with things like the water. And once again, there were plenty of things that I would have also liked to have seen played out in addition to the water. the space race, the robots, things like that, the missing TARDIS, even with all of those things, it's still probably what I would deem to be one of the more standout Jodie Whittaker stories for me. Personally, that's what I think about the Ghost Monument. What do you think? Let me know in the comments section below. Please do keep it friendly. Chat about it. Don't chat about it. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. Bye bye.